Saturday morning, we drove to Sanford to catch a flight from Orlando to Louisville, Kentucky.
We went to get a rental car. It was a Jeep Wrangler. We had a 2-hour drive ahead of us, so after stopping for groceries, for gas, and Mexican food, we made it all the way to the Red River Gorge.
We went to the Cliffview Lodge, which is like a lodge that looks on like a big lake.
It's a beautiful wood lodge which has a fire and we have a big room.
The sun was still out, so we decided to go fishing. Didn't turn out as we planned because we didn't catch any fish.
Then this morning we got up, had breakfast here at the lodge, and we went straight over to the Southeast Mountain Guides to go mountain climbing. They gave us all the equipment, and our instructor Travis brought us just around the corner to where they had some great climbing routes.
The climbing was good, but some of them were like really hard and really, really steep.
There's definitely some good exercise, pulling yourself up the mountain. It was beautiful weather for climbing. After doing 3 different routes, we went back to the lodge, took a nap, and then we went to Red River Rock House for dinner, where they had this delicious s'mores bar they made from scratch there. Now we're back for the evening. They had lots of games at the lodge, so we played some cards on the balcony. Tomorrow we have more climbing on the Via Ferrata. This morning we had breakfast and we headed over back to Southeast Mountain Guides, where we went on the Via Ferrata, which is right behind the lodge there.
So basically what it is they give you this harness with 2 clips. You have to clip onto these wires and you have to like clip and clip and clip. They give you like handles and gloves so you can hold onto the handles and climb. The third trail was really beautiful because it had a really good view and there was like a small waterfall.
Were you proud that you were able to get all the way through?
Yes, after we drove over to the natural bridge.
It was about a 20-minute hike up to the top.
The natural bridge was like a rock, but like it was hollowed out under, so it was like a bridge. And there was like a little area with like a tiny little stairwell that was really, really narrow and it led to the top where they had a really good view.
After the hike, we got some dinner and they made a fire for us back at the lodge.
One time when I was doing the marshmallows, I wanted to see what would happen if I just let it burn, and it was a big mess.
Then we went to bed, got up, checked out of the hotel, and went to the Red River Zipline. We went zipping over the forest with beautiful views, and one of the zip lines was even a half-mile long.
It was pretty fast. Some of the zip lines we could race each other.
Yeah, we went at the same time. That was awesome.
After the zip line, we got lunch and went to the underground kayaking.
It was an abandoned limestone mine, which hit a springs and that flooded most of the mine. I loved how clear the water was. You could see all the way down to the bottom of the mine, which was usually about 30 feet deep.
I got my own kayak and I got to drill it and I was really in control.
After kayaking, we got lunch and we drove to where we're staying for the next 2 nights, which is the Lion's Lair Treehouse, which is where we are right now.
And I like how small it is.
It's a really cozy wood cabin right in the middle of the Red River Gorge.
I had a lot of fun drawing on this chalkboard wall.
We'll be staying here for the next 2 nights, and there is no Wi-Fi and no cell reception, so we're off the grid. This morning we had breakfast and went back over to Southeast Mountain Guides for our second half day of climbing. It was rainy, but our guide took us to the Mere Valley, where there's lots of climbing routes that have an overhang on top of it to protect you from the rain.
We did 3 different routes and each of them were kind of challenging.
I don't think I've ever had so much fun climbing outside. These were really challenging in all sorts of different ways, trying to find the handholds and the footholds to get to the top of each of the routes.
And then we went kayaking in the Mill Valley Lake. I really liked it because it was really big.
We each had our own kayak, and it was fun following Alanna around the lake. There was some small waterfalls nearby where we both put our feet in and had some fun.
The water felt really good on our feet. Then we hopped in the car and went to the Daniel Boone Cafe where we ate some lunch and played some Scrabble. And then at the end of the Scrabble game, we spelled out supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Yeah, that's right.
From Mary Poppins.
And we were missing 1 letter. There's only 2 seasons Scrabble. Who thought that was a good idea?
Well,
You can't even spell supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
we're signing off for the night.
This is our last night at the treehouse, and tomorrow we drive to Lexington.
Yeah. These are my like whole butt.
Thursday, we checked out of the treehouse, had breakfast at the Waffle House, and went over to Winchester, where we went to the factory where they make a late one.
We saw how they mix the ginger and citrus to make the syrup.
At the end, they gave us a free soda, and we both really liked the soda. You like it? Then we went to downtown Winchester, walked into an antique store that had a lot of weird old antiques, but fun to explore and touch everything, huh? Then we went to the Bluegrass Heritage Museum. It was fun to play with all of the different old phones.
In the telephone room, I pretended to be like an operator and I would connect lines. The house that the museum was in used to be a hospital, and so they kept the operating room and you got to see inside of it.
We then drove to Lexington to visit the Henry Clay estate called Ashland. This is the statesman who represented Kentucky and was known as the Great Compromiser.
Several generations of his family lived there.
We then drove to Lexington and checked in at the 21C Museum Hotel. There's art all over this hotel. This morning we got up early and drove over to the Keeneland Horse Race Track. It's one of the nicest horse racing tracks, I think, in the country, where we took a tour and saw where they bring the horses in to inspect them and where they place bets on the horses.
They race horses in April and October. We saw racing horses on the track.
We also saw where they auction off millions of dollars of horses.
Then we drove out to the Woodford Reserve Distillery, where they make bourbon and rye.
We learned how they use 5 ingredients and yeast to make bourbon before they distill it in these 3 big copper pot stills.
Then they put the distilled bourbon in barrels and they let it sit for 4 or 5 years, maybe even over that.
They then led us through a tasting of bourbon and rye.
I had lemonade and chocolate. Then we went to a castle and had lunch.
Then we went to an indoor trampoline park where they had a warp wall.
It was kind of challenging, but then you got to go down like a fireman pole.
Finally, we went and got craft ice cream at this local place called Crank and Boom, where they had a flavor called Death by Chocolate.
Their ice cream and sorbets are really flavorful.
Today we started the morning with a tour of Louisville's horse farms. A huge amount of racing horses are born and bred in this area. We got to pet some of them.
I really liked petting them because some of them were like really sweet.
Some of the baby horses were really cute and we got to pet those too.
In the afternoon, we went to the Mary Todd Lincoln house where she grew up. So basically, we learned about her story and saw the house that she grew up in. There was a lot of original pieces. We came back to the hotel and just chilled for the rest of the night.
But not before we threw chocolate at the wall.
No.
And at my head.
Yes. Sunday morning, we checked out of the hotel, went to breakfast, and then drove to the Mega Cavern,
where we went ziplining through these gigantic limestone caves.
It was like a cavern which was lit up, and then you would zipline from place to place. There's even some suspension bridges, which I really liked.
Probably the coolest ziplining I've ever done. And now we've been to Kentucky. Was Kentucky cool?
Yeah, it was really fun. Goodbye. Goodbye, so sad.
We're in the middle of the forest, so no one's around, so we can make lots of noise. As much noise as...
On the edge of Kentucky. Yeah, on the edge of the bridge. It was on the very edge of Kentucky. Well, if we would have fallen off, we'd be like in Arkansas. Or like, I don't know, whatever states are next to Kentucky. Not Tennessee? I think Tennessee. Name the states next to Kentucky.
Connecticut.
Isn't like Ohio next to Kentucky?
No, Ohio's like up.
Yeah, Ohio's like up.
It's Kentucky and Connecticut.
Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia, Tennessee, and Illinois, and Indiana. It's attached to 6 states. That's a lot of commitment for one state. Did you know that? That we're surrounded by 6 states?
Oh my goodness. Like I care so much. Cool. Fantastic. I love geography.
Actually, I think it's 7. It's 7. I got it wrong.
Oh, great.
Missouri is kind of on the side of it.
Great.
It's got 7 states.
Fantastic. Amazing.
It's amazing.
Nerve-wracking.
Nerve-wracking.
What the heck?
Cord. Say, look, Ma, no hands.
Okay.